going to read Vicky. You can see how absurd Vicky is. She doesn't have the schema when she answers the lawyer's question. Jean, could you help me? Could you read the lawyer? All right, here, let's read the lawyer. Okay. So what happened to Vicky Pollard? She stole something. What did she steal? She stole an eyeliner pencil and a can of Red Bull, something to drink, a Red Bull, by concealing them in her leggings, okay? In her leggings. Now, Vicky responded to the lawyer. She said, no, but no, because what happened was, right, this thing happened, what I don't know, nothing, but shut up. I wasn't meant to be anywhere even near there. Then Meredith came over and started stirring it all up, started calling me all these things about this thing I didn't even know about. The lawyer is stumped. Okay, in other words, you don't talk to the lawyer in this way, right? You don't say, shut up. You don't say things in such a rude manner. There is an expected way to talk to the lawyer when you are asked to answer a question. That's what I meant, that you have certain schema, certain script in your mind when you interact with a lawyer, when you interact in a courtroom, right? So this is really weird. Next, okay, I also need somebody to role play with me. This case is Tony Blair, okay, questioned by something else, by Mr. D. By whom? By Mr. D. Mr. D. Okay. Lord Hunton said, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Prime Minister." Prime Minister is Tony Blair. Tony Blair. Tony Blair say, "Good morning, my lord." Okay. In a very polite manner. And Mr. D said, "I do not think we need an introduction. May I start with the dossiers? We have heard that a dossier was being produced in February 2002, which related to 4 countries, one of which was Iraq. Could you explain the background to that?" Okay, now Tony Blair, whose answer is quite unusually long. Usually you don't give so much time, so much turn for a person to answer questions to the lawyer. Tony Blair said, "After September 11th, there was a renewed sense of urgency on the question of rogue states and weapons of mass destruction and the link with terrorism. And there was some thought given to trying to bring all that together, identifying the countries that were a particular source of concern to us, one of which was Iraq." Okay? So you can see from how much space, how much time is given to Tony Blair, we can see Tony Blair was treated with respect, right? Because it's unduly long. Usually you don't give somebody so much time and space in response to a judge or a lawyer's question. So in chapter 2, what you need to learn is when we interact in a courtroom or in a legal setting, we do have some schemas. We do know how to behave. When we are asked to respond, we know how to respond, in what manner, how to show our respect to the lawyer or to the judge, right? And usually when people interrogate each other, when in cross-examination, there's also an expected way of interacting by following the cooperative principle and Gricean maxims. Let me spell out these four sub-maxims. In other words, when you cooperate with each other in conversations, number one, you don't lie. You speak as much as possible. That's quantity. But you don't speak too much. You don't speak too little. That's the first principle, quantity. If you speak too much, too verbose, then people might be suspicious why you are so talkative. If you don't speak enough, then people might think you are being uncooperative. For example, if I call on you to answer questions, and you are taciturn meaning you don't speak, you simply look down like that without paying attention to me. That's a violation of quantity, right? When I ask, say, Lu Meijun, can you tell me what the principle is? And Lu Meijun simply ignore me. Lu Meijun, right? Lu Meijun simply ignore me. That's a violation of quantity, right? You don't speak enough. The second sub-maxim is quality. You have to speak the truth, nothing but the truth. If you don't speak the truth or you speak a white lie, then it probably means something else. Why do you cover up for somebody or for yourself? There's another meaning if you not speak the truth. That's the second principle. Usually, if you are cooperative, you speak the truth. That's quality. Number three, if you are cooperative, then you speak relevant things. If I ask you, how old are you? For example, how old are you? Then, okay, how would you answer? How old are you? Yes, you. All right. When he answered 20, he simply followed quantity, quality principles, right? But if I ask Peggy, how old are you? She may not want to tell me how old she is. Okay, Peggy, how old are you? Okay, it's a secret. Now, in this case, it's a secret. Did she speak too much or too little? Not too much, not too little. But did she lie? Did she tell the truth? Did she lie? When she says it's a secret. She didn't lie, right? It is a secret. But then I have to decide what's the relevance when she say it's a secret. Then how can I interpret it when she say it's a secret? What does that mean? Right, in other words, women's age usually is a secret, right? Women's age is a secret in her culture. Or when women reach certain age, they suddenly feel it's a secret, all right? Or it's none of your business. In other words, the relevance is it's none of your business. But otherwise, like you, he is being very cooperative. He gives a relevant answer, right? So he's being cooperative. But she is not being uncooperative, but she just, she has other meaning. I have to interpret what's the relevance of, it's a secret. Finally, when you give a response, when you talk to each other, you have to follow a certain manner. In other words, what should come first, then you talk about it first, followed by all the events in sequence. That's manner, good manner. And you don't use a lot of difficult vocabulary. You simply use whatever you think your interlocutor can understand. That's a good manner. That's a good manner. If you don't follow this principle, you probably want to show off. You probably want to show off by, you want to show off, so you talk in a pedantic way. See, I'm already using a lot of big words, right? Because I'm trying to show off. I don't follow the principle of good manner by using the right level of vocabulary. If I want to show off, then I want to talk in a pedantic way. I may say, oh, I don't want you to be taciturn. You can't be taciturn. I don't want you to be verbose either. What are you talking about? In this way, there's another meaning, which is I'm trying to show off my level of vocabulary. Right? That has a meaning in it. If I don't use the good manner to communicate with you by talking over your head, then I have some some intention, some meaning behind. All right. Okay, when you analyze spoken or written text, you also pay attention to politeness. In other words, sometimes it's face-threatening acts. For example, today, Michelle wrote me a letter. Okay, I think she has never written a request in English to ask for leave of absence. It was very daunting for her. It's the first time she had to write a letter, an email, to request a leave of absence from the professor. And she was afraid that she might be too straightforward, too direct when she said, grant me the permission. I need to be absent next week for certain things. So that's a face-threatening act. She didn't know if she was too impolite. And I answered in a way which addressed two needs. On the one hand, I want to address her emotional need for that excuse. On the other hand, I also address the request, which is a catch the teachable moment to instruct her how to write a request for leave of absence. That was an example. Okay, finally, turn taking. Right now, who has the floor all the time? Me, right? In turn taking, you don't have a lot of opportunities to speak because I am in control here. In terms of turn taking, I have all the turns, but you don't get too many unless I say, your turn, your turn. In other words, you have a schema when you are in a classroom setting. Do you? Yes, you do have a schema. But if we violate these sub-maxims, then there must be a reason. If you can't find a reason, there's ultimate reason, which is this professor is insane. Right? This professor is insane if I don't follow the cooperative principle when I address a communicative event. Then you're trying very hard to interpret the meanings if I flout any of these maxims. Okay. Like I said, there are implicatures, 弦外之音, implicatures that can be generated when maxims of cooperative principle are flouted. Flouted is another word for violated. Okay. What you can do, this is not really an assignment. This is just to generate some interest. You can go home and find a YouTube video clip of a legislators putting oral questions to the governor or to the government in 立法院. Look at their cross-examinations and their, putting a question to the prime minister, and see if they follow the 4 maxims of cooperative principle. When you interrogate the prime minister, do you give him enough time to respond to your question? Then when he answers the question, sometimes the legislator interrupts immediately, right? They don't give the government officers time to respond. They only want them to say yes, 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 or no, no. Short answers. But if the prime ministers are trying to speak more, it's too much, right? So they restrict the amount of words they can say. And most of the time they feel the prime ministers are lying. Whatever they say, it's not true. And sometimes the prime ministers talk about something else instead of addressing the questions directly. Then we have to find out what's the relevance of your answer. And finally, when they talk to the prime ministers, they have to follow certain courtesy, showing respect, 磕头, to the legislators. If the government officers are being very rude or cursing back, when they're being cursed, they curse back. That's lack of good manner. That's the last one. Okay, that's expression of poor manner. So you can compare the length and type of turn of the two sides when you compare the legislator's speech and the governor's or the government officers' responses. Then you can see when a certain sub-maxim is violated, what implicatures can be generated, what 弦外之音 can be generated. Okay, that's chapter 1 of our textbook. Well, I think it would have been a little easier if you have read this chapter. Anyway, if you don't have a copy of this book, you know whom to talk to, right? Okay. Do you have a copy of this book? You do. Everybody, right? Do you all have a copy of this book? You do. So there's no excuse. You all have the book. All right. Okay, since you haven't read chapter 1 even, I will stop here instead of going through chapter 2 today. And since you're all tired, you look a little tired, I will stop here. But I would ask you to read chapter 2 in preparation for our next week's schedule. Let's talk about our schedule next week. All right. Next week is the 8th, right? Next week is the 8th. There will be 2 special speakers to visit us. The first hour, Jason Chen, who is the other TA. We have 2 TAs who are responsible for grading your written assignments. You have seen Peggy all the time, but you haven't seen Jason. Jason Chen is going to come to talk about how to write a written assignment clearly to get a good response. Okay, he has read all your assignments and he has accumulated enough experience to address some of the writing questions. So he will be here to talk about that. And then the second hour, so the first hour is an applied linguist who is going to talk about how to write effectively for 20 minutes. The second hour, I also have another interesting person who is a law student, law graduate student. He already completed his master's degree in law. He is going to talk about, from a future lawyer's perspective, okay, the relationship between law and language. He's a very interesting person, so he will talk about his perspective on this topic. So next week we have 2 special